Every morning is a blank page, and before the world writes its chaos on it, you get to decide how the story starts. For those who begin the day with a morning prayer, there's power in that pause. You're not rushing toward uncertainty. You're anchoring your soul before the winds blow. Psalm 23 isn't just poetry. It's your spiritual compass when life feels like a storm. And friend, storms come whether you're ready or not. Most people wake up and go straight to their phones, but wisdom says start with your spirit. A morning prayer for God's protection rewires your mindset. You're not a victim of the day. You're a vessel guided by divine covering. Imagine brushing your teeth while whispering, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." That's not multitasking. That's spiritual alignment. It's funny how we trust a GPS more than we trust God sometimes. You follow that little voice without question, even when it reroutes you. But when it comes to life's direction, we hesitate. Psalm 23 reminds us we don't walk alone, especially in the fog of fear. A prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty is your daily reset button. The truth is, you don't need a cathedral or incense to encounter God. Your kitchen table, your commute, even the shower, those can become holy ground if your heart starts seeking. Just say, "Lord, this day is yours. Guide me." That's a morning prayer. Don't overcomplicate what was always meant to be intimate. Think of it this way: you wouldn't walk into battle without armor, right? Then why face a spiritually hostile world without a prayer for God's protection? Each sunrise brings both blessing and battle. Psalm 23 arms you with the truth that your shepherd goes before you, beside you, and behind you. That changes how you carry yourself. Starting your day like this doesn't mean problems disappear, but it does mean you show up differently. You handle things with more calm, speak with more grace, and think with more clarity. You're no longer reacting from fear, you're responding from faith. That's what a morning prayer rooted in Psalm 23 builds in you. Some days you'll wake up strong. Other days you'll barely want to leave the bed. On both days, God's presence is consistent. Even when your emotions fluctuate, His covering doesn't. That's why you don't pray based on how you feel. You pray based on what you believe. And what Psalm 23 tells you is worth believing every day. So before emails, traffic, or decisions start screaming for your attention, pause. This sacred moment with God doesn't require an hour, just intention. Even a 1-minute morning prayer can shift everything. Because once your day is in the hands of the shepherd, you're no longer wandering blind. And trust me, the next step only gets deeper. Uncertainty doesn't knock, and it barges in. One phone call, one headline, one unexpected shift, and suddenly peace feels out of reach. That's why Psalm 23 is more than comfort. It's a weapon. When life spirals, a morning prayer becomes your lifeline. Not because you're pretending. Things are okay, but because you know who holds it all together. David never said the path would be easy. He said he wouldn't walk it alone. Though I walk through the valley, not around, not over, through. You don't escape. Hard seasons, you endure them with someone beside you. That's what a prayer for God's protection gives you. Not escape, but endurance. It's wild how fast fear can set in. One thought leads to another, and before you know it, you're drowning in what-ifs. But here's what changes the game. Trust in the shepherd who knows the terrain better than you ever could. In a morning prayer, you're not begging God to show up. You're acknowledging that He never left. Think of a child holding their parent's hand in a crowd. They don't need to understand where they're going. They just need to know they're not alone. That's what your soul experiences during a prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty. You release control, but not security. Look around. The world isn't getting calmer. If anything, it's noisier, faster, more anxious. But Psalm 23 was written in the middle of chaos too. It's not a fairy tale. It's a field manual for the faithful, and each morning prayer recenters your mind on the truth. God doesn't change just because your circumstances do. There's a big difference between pretending everything's fine and believing you'll be okay even when it's not. That's what faith does. It doesn't deny danger. It declares God is greater. A prayer for God's protection isn't about avoiding trouble. It's about walking through it with peace others can't explain. Real talk, sometimes trusting God feels like standing still in a storm while everything inside you screams to run. But what if stillness is the most powerful stance you can take? Psalm 23 teaches us that God prepares a table in the presence of enemies. That's confidence rooted in divine proximity. So next time fear whispers in your ear before you've even had coffee, respond with faith. Whisper Psalm 23 out loud. Let your morning prayer remind you, you're not the one holding everything together. That job is already taken, and the one who holds it all, he's already leading you forward. There's something sacred about reading Psalm 23 slowly, like you're letting each word breathe life into your soul. It's not a checklist, it's a conversation. A morning prayer rooted in this psalm isn't recited, it's received. Every verse feels like God pulling up a chair saying, let's walk through this day together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's not just about provision, it's about relationship. You're not following a distant deity. You're being led by someone who knows your name, your needs, your fears. That's why a prayer for God's protection is so personal. You're not just hoping, you're trusting a shepherd. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. That's more than poetic. It's psychological. When the world is loud, still waters become a miracle. Picture taking 5 minutes every morning, just breathing deeply, reading this verse, and letting your heart settle. That's holy therapy, friend. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because shadows can't hurt you, they just scare you. Fear is loud, but God is louder. A prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty reminds your spirit that even in valleys you're covered. Sometimes people ask, how do I start a devotional life? You start here. Psalm 23 is short enough to memorize, deep enough to meditate on for a lifetime. Start each morning prayer by reading it aloud, not like a chore, but like a declaration. Say it over your coffee, your commute, your children. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and that line flips everything. God doesn't wait until the storm passes. He blesses you right in the middle of it. Every time you recite that, you're saying, my peace isn't situational. That's the kind of confidence this psalm builds. It's not just what Psalm 23 says, it's what it does. It recalibrates your emotions, quiets your thoughts, and reminds your soul, you are never walking alone. Even when you don't feel strong, your shepherd is. That's why starting your day in this sacred rhythm changes the way you end it. So tomorrow morning, try this. Read Psalm 23 out loud before anything else. Let it echo through your room, your mind, your mood. Then pause and let your next breath become a prayer for God's protection. Because once you start your day grounded in truth, you're ready to walk through anything that comes next. Peace isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of something deeper. And in the morning before the demands of life hit, that peace is still within reach. Her morning prayer isn't about sounding spiritual. It's about settling your spirit. It's where Psalm 23 becomes more than words. It becomes a whisper to your soul. Most people wake up already anxious. Deadlines, bills, unknowns, it all comes rushing in. But a prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty breaks that cycle. Imagine sitting at the edge of your bed and simply saying, Lord, be my stillness today. That moment could be your emotional armor for the entire day. The world pushes you to hustle, but the Spirit invites you to be held. Psalm 23 reminds us that God leads us beside still waters. That's not metaphorical fluff, that's practical peace. It might look like turning off your phone for 10 minutes and breathing, or journaling one sentence, "I will not fear, for you are with me." Don't underestimate the power of gratitude either. A thankful heart is a gateway to peace. Try starting your morning prayer by listing 3 things you're grateful for. Not just big wins, but small mercies. I woke up, I'm breathing. God is near. Psalm 23 hits differently when your heart is tuned to grace. If your mind feels noisy, you're not alone. But peace doesn't come from controlling every thought. It comes from inviting God into the mess. A prayer for God's protection isn't just for outside dangers. It's also for the battles in your head. You anoint my head with oil. Even your thoughts get covered. And let's be real, peace won't always feel like a flood. Some days it's a trickle. Some days it's just enough to keep going. That's okay. Morning prayer isn't about feeling perfect. It's about starting aligned. Because when your heart is aligned with heaven, fear loses its grip. You'll notice that when peace leads the way, everything else follows differently. Conversations soften, decisions become clearer, and those little irritations, they don't stick as much. Why? Because your spirit's been fortified. Psalm 23 has done its work, quietly, like spiritual groundwork beneath your feet. So if your mornings feel heavy, start lighter. Just 5 intentional minutes of silence, scripture, and surrender can become your soul's new rhythm. And once peace is planted in the morning, watch what grows by nightfall. But what if that peace could guard more than just your heart? What if it could protect your entire path? Protection isn't paranoia, it's preparation. In a world where so much can go wrong so quickly, praying for God's protection is not a sign of weakness, but wisdom. When you start your day with a morning prayer like, "Lord, go before me today," you're not being dramatic, you're being deliberate. Psalm 23 says you're not alone, so act like it. We lock our doors and wear seat belts. But what about spiritual safety? A prayer for God's protection is like buckling up your soul before the road gets bumpy. When David wrote Psalm 23, he knew danger wasn't a matter of if, but when. That's why his confidence wasn't in comfort, but in the presence of the shepherd. Let's get practical. What does protection look like? It's more than avoiding accidents. It's mental clarity when confusion hits. It's emotional strength when offense comes. It's spiritual discernment when temptation whispers. And guess what? That kind of coverage only comes when you ask. That's what morning prayer unlocks. Divine oversight. Start naming your day in prayer. Lord, protect my steps, my speech, my spirit. Speak it out. Psalm 23 isn't a good luck charm, it's a map. When you say, "Though I walk through the valley," you're declaring that valleys don't get the final word. God's rod and staff, his tools of protection, are with you. Some people only pray for protection after something bad happens. But there's power in praying ahead of time. A prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty builds a shield before the arrows fly. It's like checking the weather before leaving the house. It doesn't stop the rain, but you bring an umbrella, and remember, God's protection is personal. What rattles your neighbor might not shake you. So pray specifically. Are you walking into a difficult meeting, traveling with your kids, battling anxious thoughts? Say it plainly. Psalm 23 invites you to stop performing and start trusting. God already knows. Now let him cover. When you pray this way consistently, your confidence changes. You stop bracing for disaster and start expecting direction. The shepherd's voice gets clearer, his guidance gets quicker, and even if trouble comes, you're not caught off guard. Why? Because you've already surrendered the day to the one who sees it all. So tomorrow, before you grab your keys or open your inbox, pause. Say, Lord, lead me, shield me, hold me. That's more than a routine. That's spiritual strategy. And once you realize how covered you truly are, it opens up a new boldness. Not just to be protected, but to be a source of protection for others too. Hope has a strange way of fading overnight. You go to bed strong and wake up wondering how you'll make it through the day. That's why morning prayer isn't optional, as it's vital. It's your soul's way of saying, I still believe today can be different. And with Psalm 23 in hand, different is possible. When David said, surely goodness and mercy will follow me, he wasn't guessing. He was declaring something. That's the power of starting your day with truth. A prayer for God's protection isn't just defense, it's activation. It says, even if I don't feel strong yet, I'm stepping out like I am. We all have days when hope feels out of reach, when anxiety pulls heavier than faith. But that's when you double down. Psalm 23 doesn't sugarcoat reality. It says there will be dark valleys, but it also says you'll make it through. And that phrase alone can become your spiritual battle cry. Want to renew your hope? Then act like hope is real. Do something intentional. Go for a walk and quote Psalm 23 aloud. Call someone and pray for them before they even ask. Write down one thing you expect God to do today. Morning prayer isn't just words. It's seed planting. And the harvest? It may not show up immediately, but it will come. That's what trusting God daily does. It turns invisible faith into visible results over time. A prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty might not remove the storm, but it will give you the strength to dance in the rain. Hope also grows when you hear testimonies. Look around. Who's been sustained by grace lately? Ask them. Let their stories feed your faith. Psalm 23 is personal, but it's also communal. You're not the only one being led through something, and that should remind you that you're not walking blind. Sometimes the simple act of showing up becomes an act of faith. Getting out of bed, getting dressed, saying yes to one more day. These little movements declare, God is not finished with me yet. And that's what morning prayer renews. The quiet courage to keep going. So, if yesterday stole your hope, steal it back today. With Psalm 23 in your heart and a whisper of trust in your mouth, speak life into this new beginning, because just beyond that doubt, a deeper strength is waking up with you, and it's about to be poured out for someone else too. Not everyone wakes up refreshed. Some people open their eyes and immediately feel dread. Before the sun even rises, their heart is already heavy. That's where you come in. Your morning prayer isn't just for you, it's a tool for intercession. Psalm 23 reminds us, when we're covered, we help cover others. There's a quiet strength in praying for someone else before they ask. Think about it. How powerful is it to whisper a prayer for peace in times of fear and uncertainty over a friend, a neighbor, or even a stranger? That's love in action. That's spiritual warfare through compassion. If someone you love is walking through anxiety, don't just say, I'll pray. Do it. Pray Psalm 23 over their life. Say, Lord, lead them beside still waters today. Text them that verse. Call them before work and speak peace into their morning. It may feel small, but it could shift everything. And let's not forget those facing battles we don't see. The cashier with tired eyes, the co-worker who's unusually quiet, the teen who's isolating more than usual. A simple morning prayer of intercession, Lord, let them feel seen today, can become heaven's answer to their hidden cry. Jesus modeled this kind of prayer, not just reactive but proactive. Before Peter failed, Jesus said, I have prayed for you. That's the heart of intercession. Psalm 23 becomes not just your comfort, but your calling. You pray as if your words can reach someone's storm, because they can. And here's a radical thought. What if your breakthrough is tied to praying for someone else's? It's not just about blessing others. Sometimes it unlocks blessings in your own life. A prayer for God's protection over someone else might become the very covering you didn't know you needed. Start small. Make a list of 3 people who seem weighed down. Pray Psalm 23 over them this week. 1 verse per person per day. Keep it consistent. Then watch what happens. Not just in them, but in you. Compassion has a way of igniting fresh hope in the heart that gives it. So when you pray tomorrow, don't just think about your own fears. Ask, Lord, who woke up feeling defeated today? And then pray like you believe your voice matters, because it does. And that same comfort you've received in the valley, it was never meant to stop with you. This day doesn't have to be perfect to be blessed. That's the beauty of starting with a morning prayer. You've already realigned your soul. You didn't just get out of bed, you rose with purpose. Psalm 23 says, "Goodness and mercy will follow you," and that promise doesn't expire at sunrise. As you step into your routines, work, family, errands, remember this: you walk under divine covering. A prayer for God's protection, declared early in the morning, carries into every meeting, every traffic light, every moment you didn't see coming. You're not walking blind. You're walking backed by heaven. This blessing isn't something you earn. It's something you receive. Peace doesn't come because everything's figured out. It comes because someone is going with you. When you pray for peace in times of fear and uncertainty, you're not hoping for ease. You're resting in presence, and that changes everything. Don't underestimate the ripple effect. You walk differently when you've been prayed over. And when others feel that calm around you, they'll ask about it. That's your opening. Don't just tell them what you do. Tell them why you pray. Share Psalm 23 like you'd share your favorite song. Speak blessing into your day before it even begins. Say, today will be guided, not guessed. Today I'll walk in peace, not panic. That's not wishful thinking, that's intentional faith. Your morning prayer plants seeds of assurance that grow into boldness when the pressure comes. And if today turns messy, because let's be honest, some days do, don't panic. Return to the shepherd. Repeat Psalm 23 out loud if needed. This is not a one-time ritual. It's a rhythm, a lifestyle, a constant reminder that you're not left to figure it all out alone. Now here's a thought. Who do you know that needs this kind of morning? A friend? A spouse? Someone who's been overwhelmed lately? Send this blessing their way. Text them a verse. Invite them into this morning prayer rhythm, because peace multiplies when it's shared. So, as this new day unfolds, bless it out, loud. Bless your comings and goings. Bless your conversations and decisions. Let Psalm 23 guide your steps, and remember, you didn't just start with God, you'll end with Him too. Now, what if this prayer wasn't just for today?